It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Oh, yes, it does. And great to have you with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. Whole bunch of topics to get into, from baseball, a little bit of golf, a little bit of everything in this show, which will start in the NFL. As we say hello to our friend Sam Yarnell, who's hanging out with me for the hour today. We got him for the whole hour today on the show. And Sam, let's start things out. I've been wanting to talk about this since the weekend, and it took me till Wednesday to get to it, which tells you how much there is going on in the sports world. Are the Vikings screwing it up already with JJ McCarthy? And I ask for this reason. This is a guy who has had limited snaps since getting to the NFL. He played, one preseason game, essentially, last year before they called it quits because of the knee injury. And they're not playing him in the preseason this year. And you've got, a brilliant head coach, a brilliant offensive mastermind of a head coach who obviously has his ideas on how he wants to use J.J. McCarthy. But I just think it's pure hubris. The height of, I don't want to call it stupidity, but ignorance, whatever you want to call it, to say that you could take a guy who, granted, played a lot in college. This is one of those guys that was an experienced collegiate quarterback, and simply throw him into the NFL, which is the best of the best. J.J. McCarthy wasn't playing against the best of the best every week in college football. We all know there's some tomato cans on the schedule. Now he's going to be going up against the best of the best. And he's going to be doing that without having ever really played any meaningful time in the last 2 years in the preseason. I don't like it. I think it's the wrong move. I'm not second guessing it. I'm first guessing it.
I mean, I think it's tough to say that they're, not getting it right with JJ McCarthy. They weren't exactly put in the most optimal circumstance for the young quarterback's success when he tears his knee up in the first preseason game that he ever plays. So I don't think I'm going to hold it against the Vikings if they don't want to see him trot out there in meaningless preseason games, because maybe it's not about JJ McCarthy. Maybe it's about the fact that, you see across the league, teams are very hesitant to put out their first string, their starting quarterback in the preseason without the entire starting offensive line. So maybe there's a member of the offensive line on the Vikings who they wanted to protect, or multiple. I think that we really won't know until week 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 what JJ McCarthy is. And that's part of what the Vikings as an organization have to know going into this season, is when you have such a variable at the most important position on a football field, you've got to be ready for anything. They've got to be ready to have a top 10 pick this year, and they've also got to be ready to find themselves an NFC Championship game. The problem within all of this, within how this situation has played out, only lies within how the Vikings manage it, in my mind.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You talk about variables. Take out as many variables as you can. And you do that by putting him on the field at least a little bit to find out what he is doing against other first-team guys. And I get what you're saying about the idea of, hey, is the entire offensive line healthy? We don't know. We're not necessarily privy to all that information. But I want to see, if I'm this coaching staff, if I'm management, I want to find out a little bit about what we have, especially a year removed from the knee surgery. And I get it. They see him in practice. They're watching him in shorts and a T-shirt and a red shirt and all of that stuff. I get it. But to me, I think it's a mistake. I also will say this, to dovetail off of this. I also think it is a mistake what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing with Aaron Rodgers not doing any preseason work. I think this is nuts. We've seen what has happened the last 2 preseasons where he hasn't had any preseason work. And I got news for you. I don't have to break it to you. It hasn't been good. He hasn't. I don't think he's played much in the preseason since going back to 2018. And it hasn't been good. I don't understand the mindset of some of these teams that simply think you can roll the balls out on the field and just let the chips fall where they may. Now, granted, the Steelers are doing this basically with their entire star lineup. TJ Watt's not playing in the preseason. All these guys aren't playing in the preseason. Which, by the way, why do we even have preseason games anymore? Why are we even bothering? It's a farce. It's a joke. Why are you making people pay tons of money to go to preseason games to watch third stringers and fourth stringers that are going to be working at Lowe's? Nothing wrong with working at Lowe's, by the way. Let's build something together. I can't for the life of me understand the mentality of, and look, you open yourself up to second guessing. If it doesn't go well, and I don't want to hear, oh, but Aaron Rodgers played well the second half of the season. Yeah, you know why he didn't play well the first half of the season? Because he didn't play in the preseason. Because there was no preseason. Because he didn't get any reps with this team, this new group of players, Sam Yarnell. You can't wrap people. You cannot wrap people in bubble wrap and hope to protect them. If it's this thing of we don't want him to get hurt, well, he's going to have to get out there and play 17 games in order for your team to potentially be a playoff team and do anything. Mike Tomlin, go ahead.
In 3 or 4 years, or whenever the collective bargaining agreement comes up and gets renegotiated, and we move to an 18-game schedule, and there is no more preseason. What does the argument become then when these guys start out slow? It's because they didn't have a preseason and we got to bring back these preseason games. And no, because what's going to happen then is they're just going to be the fifth stringers playing for, you're going to be watching a game full of Shane Buechele and Mike White.
Josh, don't forget Josh Johnson. Don't forget Josh Johnson.
Right. It seems like, by the way, my take on Anthony Richardson, I think he could be the Josh Johnson of the future. There are a bunch of teams out there that should just be taking a chance on that guy to be in their quarterback room. And I think that he's one of those guys who could bounce around the league for a very long time because of his physical acumen. Different story. But the preseason as a whole, right? It's a bargaining chip right now for the owners to have and give up when they eventually get the 18th regular season game that they all want. And when the collective bargaining agreement comes up next, my guess is that'll be one of the first topics that they broach is, hey, want to get rid of all 3 of these preseason games? You can do that for the low price of 1 extra regular season game.
I don't like it from both teams. Call it a first guess, so you don't have to say I second guessed it. There's more NFL to get to. If not, then who? The AFC West edition is next. Coming up in 10 minutes, some MLB news and notes. The Yankees did something that they've only done twice in their franchise history, and both times they've done it this year. And oh yeah, by the way, Giancarlo Stanton's going to hit 500 home runs. Stop arguing against me. You're wrong. I feel bad. I'm in a mood today. And Sam knows, I am in a mood today, man. I am spitting fire. Sam Yarnell, we have done the AFC East, where despite the fact that we tried to come up with another team that could knock off the Bills in that division, we couldn't. We've done the AFC North, where despite the fact that we tried to come up with a team that could knock off the Ravens in that division, we really couldn't. Maybe the Bengals, but you got to stretch to make the argument. We did the AFC South, where we think literally anybody could win the division. And now it's time for the AFC West edition of If Not, Then Who? Sam Yarnell. If not the team favored to win the division, then who will win the AFC West? So I ask you, Sam Yarnell, on this Wednesday, August 20th, just a month from my 48th birthday, if anybody wants to get me anything nice. If not the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC West, Sam Yarnell, then who?
I mean, the popular pick is obviously the Denver Broncos. I think that there's just about as much justification to be made that the Los Angeles Chargers could win this division. But at the end of the day, this really does feel to me like that trendy division that seems like happens every year where everyone's got a new pick and the team that's won the division X many times in a row is finally going to lose and we're going to finally dethrone them. If you'll remember back to last year, it was the New York Jets against the Buffalo Bills. We saw how that went. So while I think it's very cute that everyone wants to talk about, oh, Bo Nix is great and he's got all these weapons and RJ Harvey's really going to be a good back, or in the Los Angeles Chargers version of that exact same story, Justin Herbert's actually a top 10 quarterback, and Jim Harbaugh finally got his guy in Omari and Hampton, and it doesn't matter that Rashawn Slater's hurt. Joe Alt's going to slide over seamlessly. Yeah, I got news for you, folks. There's some devil magic going on in Kansas City. They're not giving up that division as long as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are there. I don't care if they're winning the division in the last week of the season or the 10th week of the season. The fact of the matter is the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this division for as long as we continue to watch these two offensive, I don't even want to say offensive geniuses because Mahomes isn't even a top 10 quarterback at this. He's not even a top 5 quarterback at this point in his career. These two next level football minds, and I guess that really extends more to Andy Reid than anybody, they're not losing this division.
I would tend to agree with you. I think anybody poo-pooing the Kansas City Chiefs does so at their own peril. This is a revamped offensive line. They learned from their mistakes. Unlike some teams who, basically watched last season go up in flames. I'm talking to you, Cincinnati, because your defense is hot garbage. Yeah, can we get the meme, the GIF of the dumpster going down the road on fire? That's the Cincinnati Bengals in a nutshell, who knew their defense was terrible and did nothing to fix it in this offseason, essentially, and might even
matter of fact, they made it worse.
They might have made it worse. The Kansas City Chiefs are better this year after losing 2 games last year in the regular season. They are better this year than they were last year. I want you to let that sink in before all of you try to give me an argument for Denver at plus 290. By the way, Kansas City minus 110, Denver plus 290, the Chargers plus 330, as you allude to, the odds between the two, not all that far apart. I'm going to say something that is so crazy in the scheme of things.
No.
I am absolutely, and you know what I'm going to say. I'm not saying that the Raiders have any shot to win the division. That is not what I'm saying. I could make an argument. It might take a beautiful mind and, a whole bunch of drawings and hieroglyphics. I could make the argument the Raiders could actually wind up being the second best team in this division. I think Denver last year beat a lot of bad teams. And if not for Kansas City mailing it in the final week of the season, they're not even in the playoffs. Okay? Before everybody goes crazy about what Denver accomplished last year. I keep having to repeat this. Meanwhile, I think the Raiders, if they just get a modicum of defense, if their secondary just plays average football, I actually think this team could be fun to watch this year. I'm a Geno Smith guy. I'm not a Geno Smith apologist. I'm a Geno Smith guy. I think you can win games with Geno Smith. I don't think you're winning Super Bowls with Geno Smith, but I know I've won Super Bowls with Pete Carroll as a head coach. I know I've got Brock Bowers. I know I've got Ashton Genty, who has impressed in this preseason. I actually think they could manage to rattle off enough wins. It might be, and I got news for a lot of people here. This might be a one-team playoff division. It might, unless you believe in the idea of Denver making this quantum leap from what they were last year. And I'm just not sold on it yet. I got to see it in the regular season. Because again, I saw a team last year that beat a lot of bad teams and lost to a lot of good teams. With the exception of, one that we could point to. I'm just saying, I think any of those three teams could wind up being the second best team in the division. I cannot make an argument for any of them in good conscience, Sam, to win the division, though. I think it's Kansas City. I know it's if not, then who, but it's if not, because there is no who.
I agree with you. Here's what I'll say about the Raiders, though, and why I think that this is a team that's destined for fourth place in this division again this year. This is an organization. It's not even an on-field thing, right? They could go back to the Derek Carr, Devontae Adams days when they were kicking butt and taking names, right? This organization is... It's just broken fundamentally. They can't get through an entire season without something going wrong in the locker room. And it's already started to go wrong this year. But let's take it back to 2 years ago, right? When the entire players revolted against the owner and the GM because they wanted a specific coach, right? Or before that, you had the Devontae Adams leaving because he hated the quarterback. The John Gruden thing. The list goes on and on.
The popular number on the Raiders is around that 7.5 area, by the way, just in terms if you're wondering about the win total. That's kind of where they are right now. I mean, is it a huge leap from 7.5 to 9? Not really. We're coming back. Coming up in 10 minutes, a lot of people wondered if Rory McIlroy would lose his motivation. I certainly know I questioned it right after he won the Masters, and it certainly has appeared that way. Interesting anecdotes coming from a story about Rory following the Masters. I want to talk about that and reimagining the Tiger versus Jack argument. I want to talk about that a little bit as well, as we are at Tour Championship week, with Scottie Scheffler being the most overwhelming favorite, I think, since Tiger. To win the Tour Championship. So we'll get into that coming up a little bit as well. Sam Yarnell, let's do some baseball, shall we? Talk about some MLB news and notes, which we always love to do on the program. Look, you got to start with the Yankees, with what they accomplished last night in St. Petersburg after a lengthy rain delay in their minor league spring training home against the Rays. They hit 9 home runs. It was like batting practice at the George M. Steinbrenner Field. 9 home runs for the Yankees in a blowout of the Tampa Bay Rays. What is amazing isn't the fact that they hit 9 home runs. It's the fact that it's the second time this year this team has hit 9 home runs in a game. They did it earlier in the year. It might have been in the season opener or the game after the season. I think it was the game after the season opener against the Brewers, where they beat them, I think, 20-9. And I didn't realize they hit 9 home runs in that game. But they hit 9 home runs for the second time in a game this year. And I keep saying it. You get Judge and Stanton in the lineup together, and Bellinger hitting the way he is. And I get it. Good pitching is going to beat good hitting a lot of times in the postseason. We have seen it time and time again. Look, they're only 4 games out of the division, and I'm sure they play the Jays a bunch more times between now and the end of the year. Is it crazy to think the Yankees could still win the AL East?
Yes, 100%. I would rather bet on the Yankees to miss the playoffs than I would bet on them to win the AL East.
I think you're crazy.
Well, they're closer, like games-wise, to missing the playoffs. They're 3.5 games from missing the playoffs. They're 5 games from winning the AL East. And that team that's coming up for their playoff spot is the Royals, who are 8-2 in their last 10.
So are the Yankees.
In the sun right now. So yeah, here's the problem, right? And this is the thing when they did this the last time. It's like, this is great if you could take those home runs and sprinkle them throughout 4 or 5 games. That'd be awesome. But sure, you hit 9 home runs in a spring training ballpark against a 4th place team. Congrats. You have a 1-game lead for the wild card right now. I truly am fearful for these Yankees because all these things are going right for them. And they're not moving up in the standings.
Look, I wish they would miss. I wish they would miss the playoffs so they'd fire Aaron Boone, because they're going to find a justification to bring him back after they make it in as a wild card and win a series or 2, because they'll beat a team that is maybe favored or has a better record, or they go on the road and win, whatever. they're going to wind up keeping Aaron Boone. I'm convinced. Aaron Boone will be the last thing to go. But the Yankees right now, you can get them at plus 330 to win the division. And considering they probably have a bunch of games left, and I'll look it up, see how many more games they have against the Jays, I'd love the Yankees at plus 330 right now. I really would. Because I keep saying this, and it goes back to something I've talked about, Sam. And I've talked about this a lot. And I think this season, they have 3 more games against Toronto?
3 more games against Toronto.
In New York or Toronto?
I can't.
Because we know the Jays like to turn on the fans and have them blowing in when the opposing team is hitting.
It looks like Yankee Stadium, okay. I think.
Yeah, I'm telling you. No Vladdy right now with the hamstring. There's a chance to make up some ground right now. I'm just saying. They're 4 back in the loss column. They're and as much as you want to say where they are in the wild card spot, they are the top wild card team right now by 2 over Boston and Seattle. And KC is still 4 back of them. Cleveland's still there. It's basically 5 teams competing for 3 wild card spots right now. I feel comfortable with the idea of the Yankees making the playoffs, though, at this point. I do.
Okay.
And again, I'm not necessarily happy about it because I wish they wouldn't. But and Giancarlo Stanton's going to get to 500 home runs. All right, move off the. He hit 2 more last night. Move off of that for a moment. The Dodgers win again. It feels like they're getting things straightened out after briefly falling out of first place in the National League West. Bobby Witt Jr. hit his 100th home run last night, Sam. Fastest to do it in Royals history. And remember, that's not a home run friendly ballpark in Kansas City that he plays in for half of his games. Hats off to Bobby Witt, who we don't talk about nearly enough on this show.
No, yeah, 100%. Bobby Witt, who very much, in my opinion, deserved way more MVP shares than he got last year. You're exactly right, Jason, and that's what I was saying. Like, this Royals team, they're starting to fire right at the right time, and this is what we were talking about when, 2.5 weeks ago, I'm sorry, I should say this is what I was talking about when 2.5 weeks ago we were sitting here talking about all these good teams that are struggling. No, that's when good teams struggle, is the beginning of August. It's when the good teams are built to not be good. It's why I said on this show, everything that happens between July and August 25th, unless it's related to injury, you should not worry about. So
that includes the Yankees then. That includes the Yankees by that logic.
The Yankees were on a 15, or I think they were 3-12 in a 15-game streak headed up to July 15th or July 25th. I do think that the Yankees are in grave danger of missing the playoffs. I think that we are seriously teetering on that line. But again, no more time on the Yankees in this segment.
I agree.
Way too much Yankee time.
Yeah.
Yes, the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. Yes, the Dodgers are probably going to win the World Series this year. But until October, it's really fun to talk about all the other teams that might actually potentially have a shot. Just kidding. That's just the National League teams at this point. They've been a lot of fun, Jason.
I will finish with something I have said going back a while now. It's all about who's going to be playing well at the end of September. That's honestly what it is. Who's trending well then? The Brewers had this huge run. Now you've watched them hit the skids a little bit here over the last few days. What does that portend for the last month of the season, last 6 weeks, 5 weeks of the season? We saw Toronto go through their hot run. Now they're going to be without Vladdy. What does it mean for them? The Phillies dealing with life without Zach Wheeler. I think there are so many variables to this. I think it is way more wide open than you do as it relates to the World Series and which league wins it. But I'm back on the Yankee bandwagon right now. I don't want to be, because I want to see Aaron Boone gone at the end of the year, but I'm back on the Yankee bandwagon right now. What can I tell you? We're coming back. All right, let's talk some golf on this Wednesday edition of the show. Tour Championship begins on Thursday, just outside of Atlanta. Or is it in Atlanta? I know, it's right around Atlanta. We've got Scottie Scheffler trying to really complete a dream season. And Rory McIlroy will be amongst those trying to stop him from winning the Tour Championship and capping off a phenomenal season, Sam Yarnell. In talking about Rory for a second, I was reading a really interesting story. I don't remember if it was in The Athletic or what publication had it, but I was reading it last night, which was discussing Rory talking about his the time since winning the Masters, and they actually pointed out that he bought 1,100 pins from Augusta National. He went into the golf pro shop there and bought 1,100. He bought every single flag. I don't know if that's customary, if everybody always does that, but he went and bought all the flags so that he could have them to autograph and all of that stuff. And the story just basically went into what life since winning the Grand Slam, the career Grand Slam, and winning the Masters has been like for Rory McIlroy, and talking about that lack of motivation that he's had. And there's been flashes of brilliance where he'll look good for a few holes or a round or 2 rounds, but just has not been able to put it together. If he can't do it this weekend, other than the Ryder Cup, which obviously there will be motivation for, the Olympics is something that means a lot to him. I know that trying to win gold is really the last thing for him to try and accomplish. I'm trying to make an argument for anybody to win this thing other than Scottie Scheffler, who goes off at plus 150 right now over on FanDuel. Rory at plus 850, Sam, and then Tommy Fleetwood, which is remarkable to have the third best odds considering he's never won a PGA Tour event, at plus 1,400, 14-1 for those of you keeping score at home. I'm trying to make an argument, and I was saying this to you during the break, and I'll say it again, Sam. For our audience watching around North America and wherever they may be watching on Spotify or YouTube, I'm not usually one that's geeked up about the FedEx Cup Championship and the Tour Championship. I am in this case because I think we're actually back at a point in golf where you can watch for the idea of, can anybody beat Scottie Scheffler, which was peak Tiger years. Peak Tiger Woods, we watched just to see if anybody could beat him. It was like Sandy Koufax in his peak days with the Dodgers, when you would watch to see if anybody would just get a hit because you knew there was a chance every time Sandy Koufax pitched, he'd be able to throw a no-hitter. Same thing with a guy like Nolan Ryan. That's sort of where I am right now at Scottie Scheffler, which gives me a reason to watch this weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, there are a couple of other reasons to watch the Tour Championship, right? Like, it is the ultimate. I think it's cool because it's like the ultimate golf playoff, right? There are 30 guys in this entire tournament. There are 30 guys participating. Yep. And you've got some great stories outside of Scottie Scheffler. I am of the belief, as Jason alluded to, that no one's got a shot. Like if you're any of the other 29 guys, you're just going out there to hit balls, maybe shoot a low round. Don't worry about winning the event. There's a guy who showed you last week that when you go out there and shoot a low round and put a couple rounds together,
3 of them,
have a 5-stroke lead going into the last day, he'll hunt you down and kill you anyway. That's all Scottie Scheffler does, is win golf tournaments and take them from people, and apparently be a great dad also because he's a true American hero, I guess. So yeah, Scottie rocks. It's awesome. It's super fun to watch. I can't wait to watch it again this week. I'll get in at plus 150. Why not? You're going to give me plus money on a guy who I know is going to win the tournament to win the tournament? Sure. But you know, a lot of great stories. Chris Gotterup is in that first tee group on Thursday. The guy who's flown onto the scene in the last 5 weeks from just down the road from me here in Little Silver, New Jersey. Akshay Bhatia, who's been battling all year long to try and get back into contention on the tour, finds his way into the Tour Championship and now has, you know, obviously a chance to make some real noise. You mentioned the Fleetwood narrative. Tons of people are going to be watching because of that. And obviously, I don't know. It feels to me like on the Rory thing, maybe this is just me projecting my own feelings onto other people, but it feels like a large contingent of the golf community, once Rory came out and said those things about how it's just harder for him to really get up and try for a tournament after he completed the career Grand Slam, it becomes a lot easier to write Rory McIlroy off in these kind of big events. Talk about a guy who's really just going out to have fun and maybe hit a low round if he runs into it. That's what it feels like Rory McIlroy's doing at this point in this season, and quite frankly, at this point in his career, Jason.
I'll make you a deal, Sam. I'll give you the bet. I'll take your bet at plus 150, and you take mine on Rory at plus 850. How's that? How about that? I'll be your book. And you be mine, since you're so confident on Scottie, and I love Rory at that number. I think we should just exchange information. That's what I think we should do. Because I like my Rory number much more than I like that Scottie number.
Jason, I truly do appreciate the offer, but I appreciate the offer of my freedom more, and I'm not going to engage in illegal gambling practices. I'll keep my bets legal with registered bookmakers like the FanDuel Sportsbook, DraftKings, MGM, Circa, whoever you want to name.
All right, fair enough. All I can do is offer. Just a friendly wager amongst friends. I'll book it for you. We didn't get to reimagining Tiger versus Jack. Maybe we'll make that a bonus segment. Go check out our YouTube, SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Because I really wanted to talk about that. Because it was something I was thinking about last night. We're all watching the Tour Championship. We're coming back. We wrap it up with some odds and ends 10 minutes from now. I want to have a conversation about the WNBA and sort of put it against similar leagues. It's not fair to have a conversation of WNBA versus NBA versus Major League Baseball versus the NHL or anything like that. It's a half the it's half the length in terms of the time that those seasons and those leagues play. The NBA is 82 games, WNBA is 40. Or whatever it is. It's roughly half the amount of time. Same thing for hockey. But I do want to compare it to other leagues in its sphere. MLS, NWSL, things of that nature. And when you start to have that conversation, a picture starts to be painted, Sam Yarnell. And it's not a good picture for leagues like MLS. And we love to, people love to bang on the WNBA for this, that, and the other. And I was just looking at some numbers the other day that really illustrated. And I know a lot of people go to MLS matches, and it does well from an attendance standpoint. And it's always done pretty well from an attendance standpoint in most of the markets that it's in. And it's a league that continues to expand and grow, and that's great. And Don Garber's done, a nice job with this league. But nobody watches it on television. Nobody watches it on television. It averages 127,000, I believe is the number. It averages 127,000 viewers on Apple TV. It used to average over 320,000 viewers during its time on ESPN. And that was before it had Messi. Okay? So I don't want to hear the whole, Messi, this, that. No, there was no Messi then. And they were averaging 320-something thousand viewers. They screwed up when they went to Apple TV. And Apple TV has not done well when it comes to bringing on live sports. There's no getting around it. And I love Apple TV. I have it. I subscribe to it because I get it for free with my T-Mobile subscription. But
free ads all over the place.
All over the place today. Hey, why not? Can't sell them. We'll give them to them for free.
I mean, my goodness.
Why not? But I can't for the life of me figure out why MLS gets a pass while the WNBA gets crushed. And we've got people talking about how much players should and shouldn't make and why players are mad about the collective bargaining agreement and all these things. But my God, I mean, the MLS, great if you go see it live. Other than that, nobody's seeing it at all.
So a couple of things.
The NWSL gets higher ratings than MLS on television,
right,
Sam.
Right. And the NWSL is a league that was founded, less than 20 years ago, I want to say?
Less than 20 years. I think it's less than 10.
So But what I do think is important to remember in this grand scheme, and this is true to the WNBA as well, right, is that these leagues in the MLS, the WNBA, throw the NWSL in there if you want, they're all so new relative to American sport. These are all leagues that are founded at their oldest in 1993. That was Major League Soccer. WNBA followed in 1996. We are 32 years into this league being a thing at all. I think that the expansions are a good sign. This is a growing pain to me, in that, like, every league at some point makes a bad deal. The NHL spent however many years it did on Versus. You remember that?
Wow,
right?
I do.
Like this, leagues go through these points, especially with media partners, on the way to expanding, on the way to growing, right? On the other side of that Versus deal with the NHL, what did you see? You saw a complete rebranding with Adidas and then Fanatics. You saw an expansion of 2 teams in Las Vegas and then Seattle. You saw the NHL continue to grow, right? So one would hope that this is a growing pain like we've seen in other professional sports leagues. The other piece of this is that we're talking about a streaming service in Apple TV Plus. And I do think there is merit to a theory that I heard earlier this week. That is, we are kind of at this point in a circle where we're heading back towards terrestrial cable to watch sports. It feels like we've passed the bottom, the opposite end of the diameter of that circle, which was the full streaming experience. And, you know, we've got Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV and regular season games for many sports on different streaming networks, including the NFL on Netflix now, right? And it feels like this is the beginning of the push back towards the top, back towards terrestrial cable, and all sports being in one box on your TV again. Wow. That's how I take it, Jason.
I do wonder if there's going to be some sort of whiplash back towards cable, and it's a different conversation because of all of these streaming services and how much it's costing, that it may give a window, an opportunity to cable and you know, the old traditional model. I think there's something to that. To give you the numbers real quick, MLS viewers per game, courtesy of Haley Rosen, founder and CEO at Just Women's Sports. MLS viewers per game, 120,000 this year. NWSL viewers per game, 189,000. WNBA viewers per game, 794,000. And who has the biggest deal financially of all of those? MLS makes nearly $200 million more per year on its media rights. Who's the sucker? It was Apple. It blows my mind. But again, I wonder if it's a product of it being Apple TV and people aren't watching Apple TV, Sam.
We're moving away from streaming, Jason. The day has finally come.
See, I don't think that. I just think in the streaming wars, there's going to be a consolidation in terms of who the winners are. YouTube is the biggest winner of all. Not YouTube TV, YouTube in general is the biggest winner in the streaming wars. We're coming back with odds and ends. Don't you go anywhere. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. Tomorrow on the show, David Aardsma, former big league closer, former MLB reliever, joins us in his weekly spot. Get some thoughts with him on all things baseball. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, anywhere you get a podcast. It is the audio version of this show, commercial-free, 45 minutes, delivered to you Monday through Friday, available early in the afternoon, sometimes mid-afternoon. If you have not subscribed yet, go and do so. It's a great way to take in the show. It works just as well as an audio show as it does a television show, so make sure and go and check that out. Speaking of television, a lot of you watch the show, obviously, on over 270 affiliates around the U.S. and Canada. We are everywhere, and that platform is only growing. However, If for some reason you can't watch the show or it's not available on a particular day in your market, maybe it gets preempted for a sporting event, you can also watch the show on Spotify and also on our SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, which if you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? It is fantastic. It is a fast-growing channel. We have the show up there Monday through Friday, again, commercial-free, and you could also watch the show there in addition to SportsWrap Shorts, little short snippets from the show, sometimes snippets not from the show. We did a segment today that we couldn't fit into the show about reimagining Tiger Woods versus Jack Nicklaus and who would have been the winningest major golfer of all time. I think it would have been Tiger Woods if not for injuries and some of the stuff that went on in his personal life. You can go and watch that right now over on our Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Not part of today's show on television, but it is on our YouTube channel. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, and we begin things with Anthony Richardson and his agent right now, unsure of his future. What will become of Anthony Richardson after the decision by the Indianapolis Colts to start Daniel Jones and make him their starting quarterback for this season? It's a big question mark right now. Derek Jackson isn't demanding a trade, but he is asking out aloud what Shane Steichen's quarterback decision could ultimately mean for the future of Anthony Richardson. And here would be my answer to the agent on this. Obviously, your guy didn't do what he needed to do in order to prove himself to be the starting quarterback for this team. And he's had a couple of years now to try and make that happen. Obviously, something is going on in that building. Something is going on that practice field that has dissuaded this organization from believing in the idea that Anthony Richardson is the future of this franchise. Now, as we all know, these things could take a sudden turn. Daniel Jones, they could be 1-4 through the first 5 games, and Shane Steichen has to go back to Anthony Richardson. And who knows what kind of Anthony Richardson you get at that point. I still am of the belief that Anthony Richardson is going to be a starting quarterback or get an opportunity to be a starting quarterback in this league somewhere else. Again, we've seen it with Justin Fields. We've seen it with Baker Mayfield and the opportunity he got. We've seen it here with Daniel Jones after he was cast away by the New York Giants and getting an opportunity with the Colts. Guys do get a second chance in this league. I think Anthony Richardson's physical skill set will determine that he will get another opportunity in this league. Couple other things I want to get to in odds and ends. There is news from college football, and it involves the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Look, anytime you have something that is subjective, where you have a bunch of people getting into a room, and we can't see into that room, and these people get into that room and try to make a decision, a determination on who the best teams are, and they're trying to come up with different metrics, and you get all these different arguments that take place about why Team A is better than Team B is better than Team C. And you have a playoff that is going to start expanding, which will make it a little easier to digest and understand why some teams get in and why some teams don't. But there is these enhanced metrics that are going to be used, and the College Football Playoff Selection Committee is going to be announcing its first of 6 rankings on November 4th using these enhanced metrics that are going to be used in terms of evaluating a whole bunch of things, the schedule strength, how teams perform against that schedule. Again, what do I think this means at the end of the season? You're still going to have people complaining. You're still going to have people that feel like their team was left out, for a reason that is less than honest. As long as you have a system set up where adults are going into a room behind closed doors, we don't get to see the conversation that takes place in that room. I think it would make for great television, by the way. As long as we live in that sort of world in college football, no matter what enhanced metrics they announce, there are still going to be people that are obviously very skeptical of the process that takes place. This is something we'll discuss with our friend Bill Bender from the Sporting News when he comes on with us for the college football season every week, beginning next week on the show. And that is going to wrap it up for this Wednesday edition of Sports Wrap. We appreciate you tuning in. Thanks to Sam Yarnell for hanging out with us for the entirety of the hour, except for odds and ends, obviously. As I said, David Ardsma will join us on the show tomorrow. Look forward to talking with him about all things Major League Baseball. Thanks to you, as always, for tuning in as well. Don't forget, Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast as well. We'll catch you all back here on Thursday. Bye-bye.